Can't believe that you guys did all the craziness that you did. We're going to take a look back through some of the more over the top matches, if you will. This is a criticism that we heard a lot, that there were too many gimmick matches. And I can't help but wonder, did they say there were too many gimmick matches because there really were? Or did they say there were too many gimmick matches because of your family's history in Memphis and people just always automatically went to that? Like, whenever I hear people talk about ECW, they talk about, oh, it was too bloody, it was too violent, it was too gory. But not every ECW show was, and certainly not every ECW match was. But that Memphis brush, that's a stigma that you've been painted with for your entire career. Oh, that Memphis stuff. And maybe they didn't say stuff. Y'all had too many gimmick matches, or do you think that there is something to that, that people in the industry just associate the territory and therefore you and your dad with gimmick matches?
So your question is, did we have too many?
Do you think you had too many, or do you think that people say that you did, and when they do, is that just or unjust based on just the history of the association with Memphis?
So I think that opens up a bigger question of discussion, a bigger topic of discussion that all kinds of questions could come out of. I think that, I mean, going back to prior to social media, if you really listen to the fans that maybe hung out back, or, you know, in the early days of AOL chat lines, well, no, that, because then that gets into the reporting on people who actually didn't watch, and it's not their cup of tea. And so I think when you weigh it right down to, I think people actually being in the arena watching it versus people that heard about it, it just kind of gets, it breeds discussion that kind of almost gets out of, now wait, are we complaining about we don't understand this gimmick match, or that there's too many of them? I think and I say, you know, I think TNA, I think the wrestling industry in general at times confuses, doesn't do the best job, maybe glasses over it, maybe it assumes the audience understands. I think there are sometimes gimmick matches made that might not have the most, you know, is there enough story to warrant a gimmick match? But I also think if you turn that piece of paper over, that coin over, whatever it is, your alternative is just to have another match. And I think that's worse than not trying. I think action breeds discussion. And look, did we have too many? I think that's, I mean, so subjective that I think you could poll 10 TNA fans, like people, and I say TNA fans, I'm talking about customers who watched the TV show, bought a pay-per-view, went to a live event, bought merchandise, the true consumer. I think you would get a mixed bag of answer, even to the most diehard of TNA fans. Me personally, that I think we had too many. I think at times, I don't know. I don't think we had too many, but did we do the best job promoting it or explaining it? Maybe not. But I always erred in the way that, you know, hypothetically speaking, Connie, if you're going to have a guitar on a pole, okay, that's probably the easiest. It's a way that the folks know, all right, a guitar is going to be used in Jeff versus AJ Styles. Let's make that a focal point, because if it's just Jeff and AJ in another single that we've seen 3 weeks before that, well, that doesn't have as much meat on the bone, other than, okay, man, I want AJ to climb that pole and hit Jeff with the guitar. I think there's a way to tell stories. And at the end of the day, at the very core of it, and this goes back generations, not just the territory days prior to that. I mean, if you think about it, 2 out of 3 falls is somewhat a gimmick match. I don't think it's Raven's House of Fun Clockwork Orange match, but the business has progressed. But from day one, they had cage matches. I saw that social media tweet that I think the Omni was one of the very first cage matches, and it was chicken wire and 2x4s in a circle built around on the ring.
They called it a fence match back then, didn't they?
Oh, wow. I believe they did. Yeah. So anyway, did we have too many? Subjective. Me personally, no. But did we promote them to the best of our abilities? Absolutely not. We didn't.
If we were to try to explain this like we were a third grader, how would you explain what a gimmick match is?
Oh boy. Well, in gimmick matches is something that I believe has really entered into the wrestling vocabulary much more. And I don't want to put a timeline on that, but the last 10 or 15 year, 10, 15, I don't know, 20 years. I'll say this. When I broke in and you hear car rides running up and down the road, and even in the early days of TNA, I didn't say, "Hey man, are we going to do a gimmick match?" Now that's a part of our vocabulary now, but I would always say, "How are we going to stip this match up? What kind of stipulation would we give it?" And I don't think I would. Yeah, maybe I would today. I wouldn't say that stipulation and gimmick match, stipulation for the match and gimmick match. I would almost put those synonymous. Now I know at this stage in 2023, I may be in the minority. Well, Conrad, when you hear stipulation and gimmick, is it two different things?
Well, I mean, I wanted to sit under your learning tree in that, but I think people use the phrase gimmick match interchangeably, like you were saying, like they represent the same thing.
Yeah.
But to your point, I don't think like an Iron Man match, that doesn't feel like a gimmick match to me.
Okay. That's kind of where I'm going, that when you hear gimmick, you think of, I almost want to say silliness,
That's it. That's it. That's what I think of. I think of that WrestleMania where like they wore hoods and blindfolds and they had a Prince of Darkness match or, whatever they called it back in the day. But like the silliness of like a coal miner's glove match, like that's a gimmick match.
And when you say the silliness of a coal miner's glove match, if you were to have the right story with any territory babyface that could cut a hell of a promo, and let's just say, he has his 3-minute TV match, and we call it back in those days a job match. Now you call it an enhancement match, but he gets his quick win and he goes over to the table and he talks to Bob Caudle or Lance Russell or Mark Lawrence or Gordon Soley, and he talks about his big match coming up this Tuesday night at so and so Gardens, and he's going after that title, and here come the heels, and da 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 da, and they get in an argument, and it gets very heated, and then out of nowhere, somebody sucker punches him or comes and jumps him from behind, and then they pull out some kind of slapjack or something, and they cold cock the baby face, and he gets juiced and he goes down, and maybe he's carried out of the studio. And then you talk about, okay, he jumped me, and I know what he used. He used, a weighted slapjack or whatever it is. And then that baby face basically says, you know what? I was taught when I was a kid, my grandfather worked in the coal mines, and he had to go to work every day. And, I'll never forget when he passed away, that pair of gloves, my granny kept those until the day she died. Something that gave a story to why we're going to put this coal miner's glove, that if you put it on and hit somebody, you're going to see blood. But there's a story behind it. So a coal miner's glove match in the 1970s versus 2023, to me, are completely two different scenarios. It's story versus non-story. And that is something that I think the business, specifically in the 90s when it went to the Attitude Era, and I don't want to say shock TV, but much fast-paced, and we're just kind of give entertainment to the casual fan. I don't want to say my dad and the territory promoters didn't care about casual fans. They cared about making money. And so if a person was spending money on their tickets, they weren't casual. They were fans. But man, we're splitting hairs, but this is when I know we're going to have fun and we're going to laugh and cut up and all this, but the evolution of stipulation matches or gimmick matches, it's something that, it can be dissected in so many ways, because just like we talked about Sting's last match, just that name, wow, 11,000 plus tickets day one in the events, not till March. The name WrestleMania, how many tickets did they sell? Wembley, day one tickets went on sale. There's equity in that kind of stuff. So there was a time when you said Lawler Dundee were putting in a cage. Just the fact that it was being put in a cage, you could raise ticket prices and not one fan would complain. So there's value in creating revenue with gimmick matches if done correctly.
I think maybe one of the things I think of with a gimmick match is there's something outside of the confines of the way we do a regular match. Like, I don't mean like an Iron Man. I mean like a coal miner's glove means there's, for lack of a better word, a prop being
Yeah,
used.
it is a prop.
There's something different being introduced. Whereas an Iron Man, although I said it's not a gimmick match, and I still would say it's not a gimmick match. We're just going to wrestle and we're going to see who can get the most falls, but we're going to do it for an hour. That doesn't feel like a gimmick. But as you said, Ravens Clockwork Orange House of Fun match, certainly a gimmick. It's going to make its debut on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, at the Asylum in Nashville, where Raven would defeat the Sandman. This is a hardcore match where poles are attached to the ring post with weapons hanging from them. And in some matches, a section of a steel cage would be attached. What do you think of this contraption and the gimmick and the stipulations, if you will? And who comes up with this? Is this Raven? Is this Russo? Do you recall?
If my memory serves me correct, it would be because Raven and Russo, I don't think every week, but traveled back and forth from Atlanta to Nashville often.
Yes.
And I think it was one of the car rides kind of discussions and, hey, Jeff, let me pitch you this. What do you think of that? And here's the cool name. It feels, even to this day, like like Raven named it. Now, I may be wrong. It may be Russo. I don't know, but I kind of think one of the two did. But the other thing that I kind of left out of that is that, and this is where at times I kind of look at professional wrestling around the globe. And in Mexico, oh, it's Lucha Libre. They don't tell any stories. Well, if you know the culture, yeah, they do tell stories. And then in Japan, oh man, that's just a bunch of moves and strong stuff. No, there's a story there too. And then back in the day in Germany, they had rounds. Well, anyway, I think really all of it together is the stipulations help tell stories. And this was, you could call it it's a hardcore match. Raven's match is, for better or worse, no DQ, no time limit, one fall to the finish, weapons are legal. But you kind of dress it up and it's House of Fun Clockwork Orange match, a craziness. And it kind of sounds, okay, that's engaging. Let me take a look at this. And it fit his personality for sure.
We should also mention the maybe most famous version of this match is Raven defeating Sean Waltman at Hard Justice 2005. I think it was supposed to be Jeff Hardy in the match, but he winds up no showing. Do any of these matches stick out to you?
This was a good one. Jeff was battling his demons, so to speak. So as our buddy Eric Bischoff says, better than, less than, or what's the other one?
Different than.
Different than. People expected to see Hardy. I don't think, as you know, oh, okay, so Xbox in this. And then Kiddo went out there and they freaking tore the house down. Marcus, it may be a good time to plug that app because this is on. I'm almost sure.
Yeah, all of these great gimmick matches we're watching, you can watch right now at impactwrestling.com/packages. Use our promo code Jeff. It's only $7.99 a month. Of course, they're rebranding themselves TNA, and tickets are on sale now for their big event in Las Vegas with Okada. But you can watch all these great matches that we're going to be discussing at impactwrestling.com/packages. Be sure to use promo code Jeff.
But Shaw Waltman went out, and he's maybe he can be called an old timer now, but he's a seasoned vet. No, he's smart. He understood that they are expecting Hardy Raven. I got to go out there and really, not just have your A game on. Anyway, very, very good match. That these guys, I hate to say, as professional as they are, but they over delivered. They tore the house down.